Today's podcast is thanks to CQ University's MBA for the Rest of Us. Be about the new business world, not the old school tie. Delivered entirely online with no assessment deadlines, at CQ Uni, you can get a full qualification from $7,000. Search Be Different MBA.
I want to start, however, the program by telling you about a deal that's been done today, which is fascinating given a little bit of the recent background. You may be aware that BP had bid $1.8 billion for the Woolworths petrol sites. They were rejected by the ACCC, and eventually, just 2 weeks ago, BP walked away from that deal, said they would not be able to go and buy the Woolworths petrol sites. Now, previously, of course, it was Caltex that supplied the Woolworths petrol stations, and they had collaborated in some cases with the sort of, if you like, merchandise that you would buy inside the stores. Well, what's happened just 2 weeks after BP has walked away, taken their $1.8 billion, Caltex has extended its fuel supply arrangements with Woolworths for a further 15 years. And 125 Caltex sites are going to be added to Woolworths' existing site redemption network. In other words, they're effectively going to look like mini Woolworths supermarkets. One man who may be affected by this, or his members at least, is Mark McKenzie, who was the Chief Executive of the Australasian Convenience and Petroleum Marketers Association. Mark, many thanks for your time.
G'day, Ross.
So the ACCC knocked the deal back between BP and Woolworths. Caltex now gets a big crack at this. Does it really sort of, for other independents out in the marketplace, threaten their shops and their existence?
Well, not really. I think that the total number of sites that are actually displaying the Caltex brand hasn't changed. I mean, it would have been quite different if BP's deal had been successful, as you rightly identified earlier. But what we're talking about here, effectively, is the nature of the relationship between Woolworths and Caltex has actually deepened. Caltex has actually provided, a bit of a defensive action. They've learned that they were potentially vulnerable in terms of a supply agreement, so they've gone back to Woolworths to sort of cut off that loophole. And in doing so, put some cash on the table. And then on the other side, they have taken some convenience expertise, basically from Woolworths, both in terms of scale buy and the convenience side, as well as expertise to actually start to look at expanding the metro concept. For its part, Woolworths basically keeps the same number of sites they actually had. And as you identified effectively, the Caltex sites that have previously taken the redemption offer increase from 104 to just under 230. So it's more than doubled. So
a couple of other bits and pieces here also. One is the potential as to what would happen to fuel prices, because as the ACCC noted, they were worried about BP and Woolworths getting together because BP tends to be a bit slower on the price cycle, and its petrol prices tend to be higher than the average fuel prices out there, whereas Woolworths had said its average prices were lower, and it tended to be one of those that might lead the price cycles down in the major capital cities. So with Caltex and Woolworths getting together, given that BP is still out there and is a significant competitor, and you've then got the 7-Eleven stores, you've got a range of others, plus the independents out there, does it now mean that there is even more competition for fuel prices, that we won't see the margins, the margins at the retail level, at least anyway, going out to these record levels that we've seen over the past 18 months?
I think there's 2 points here, Ross. The first is that certainly, if we consider this in the light of the Shell Vitol float of their retail business that's come on the agenda in the last 2 weeks, you actually look at the fact that Coles are being spun out of Bunnings, and we're getting a dedicated concentration on the fuel and retail business. I think basically it's fascinating. What we're actually seeing is everybody line up with a strategy in terms of potential increase in competition where they all compete for share. But the other key thing is that all these moves, the one element that is similar in all of them is they're all moving into the convenience side. So, traditionally we've gone on a basis where fuel has been heavily discounted by the profits that have been earned on the convenience side. Chips, chocks and drinks have been expensive. You went back 15 years ago because you paid for convenience. We're now seeing almost supermarket prices start to appear in those small store formats. And we're seeing growth in that convenience sector as people are moving to look at a service station for more than chips, chops and drinks. They're going to buy fresh food, yogurt, breakfast materials.
Potentially even baked goods. I mean, I've seen that in the UK because this is where it's all come from, hasn't it, Mark? I mean, This is largely a phenomenon that's come out of the UK, which many of our supermarket trends do. We've seen Tesco very big into fuel in the UK. There's been Sainsbury's there's been in a big way. There's been a deal only recently that's broken apart between, I think, Marks and Spencer and one of the big fuel companies. Might have even been BP in that case.
It was, yes.
So therefore, there are really, big trends coming out of the UK that are now going to be alive and well here in Australia.
Spot on, and it's not just the UK. We've seen it in North America as well, and it's happening in parts of Western Europe. So what you're basically seeing here is these businesses are diversifying from just a focus on fuel to bringing in convenience in a very big way. And in that sense, I suppose the question is going to be, well, does that change in mix actually improve their overall profitability? I suppose, given that they're all going down this path, you'd have to say that the current line of thinking is yes.
It's going to be interesting to watch it, there is no doubt. Always great with his time on this program. Mark McKenzie is the Chief Executive of the Australasian Convenience and Petroleum Marketers Association. And Mark, I appreciate your time here on the program tonight.
Pleasure, Ross. Thanks very much.
It's going to be fascinating to watch exactly what happens. So to give you some idea, I mean, the idea, remember, in a petrol station is that they've got to get throughput. In other words, it's all about volume. So you've got to have cars across the forecourt. So that means your prices have got to be competitive. But if you've got another reason for a person to go into a service station, apart from filling up, it is to buy the bread, the milk, whatever it might be. And if the grocery range gets broader, and you're not losing out of that store, in fact making more money out of the store, and you're distributing groceries more widely, well, you've got a pretty compelling case for people to also buy their fuel there.